G'day there guys, thought he was really smart as a child because he knew that Santa Claus wasn't real here. It's your main man Markee and welcome back to another episode of r/Am I the A-Hole. Now if you love this content, I want you to sit back, relax, chuck a prawn on the barbie, smash that like button, and enjoy the bloody video. Thank you. Our first post is by user Dugout34, titled, Am I the A-Hole for blaming my dad for bringing my stepbrother into my life? My wife had an affair with him. My wife had an affair with my stepbrother. It was possibly the single most devastating thing that I've been through. My marriage is over, and everything is wrapped up money-wise. But I have a lot of anger and resentment at my dad for even bringing this piece of shit that is my stepbrother into my life. He was always a negative presence in our family, and I've complained to my dad numerous times as to how our stepbrother was awful to my sister and myself. But my dad turned a blind eye because he was desperate to keep the sham of a family together. My dad has begged for forgiveness, but I no longer talk to him. My sister doesn't talk to him as well as an act of solidarity. I also told my granddad that I can no longer work in his company if my dad and stepbrother work there. I told him I was quitting. My granddad ended up firing my dad and my stepbrother instead, and he's cutting my dad out of his will because he saw how hurt I was by everything. He doesn't want my stepbrother to benefit from him in any way. My dad reached out recently to say that he is separating from his wife, so there will be zero link to my stepbrother, and if I would be open to talking to him. I said he was 15 years too late and stopped responding. Am I the a-hole for blaming my dad for playing a part in this? Unless you have more to say, this is not your dad's fault, and ruining your dad's life is not the way to go about this. It doesn't seem like your dad directly played a part in this. Yeah, maybe he introduced the stepbrother into your life, but he didn't set the stepbrother against you. He didn't, make your wife cheat on you. He didn't make the stepbrother pursue your wife. That's not your dad's fault. You're a terrible person for tearing apart your own father's life without any good reason to do so. It doesn't seem like he's the cause of your problems. I'm gonna go with you're the a-hole for this one. RR812 says, You're the a-hole. This has nothing to do with your dad bringing him into your life. This has to do with your ex-wife's commitment issues. Your stepbrother and ex-wife are the a-hole. The fact it took Granddad cutting the dad out of his will just goes to show he never cared about his kids. He was with stepmother for all this time, but as soon as he's about to lose money, he breaks it off? Please, that man is as selfish as they get. This is just speculation. There's nothing in the post that shows that it was his granddad cutting him out of the will that caused this, other than that it happened afterwards. You say it must have been about the money, like his wife's kids cheating with his son's wife and causing him to lose contact with most of his family couldn't cause enough strife to break up a marriage? It's far more likely to be that than anything else. I'm not going to give a judgment because there's too much OP is leaving out about what behaviors his dad tolerated from stepbrother to judge, and it may be that there is enough in there to justify cutting him off. But unless OP's dad supported stepbrother after the affair or helped cover it up, this is not his fault. He can't be blamed for the affair just because his marriage brought stepbrother into OP's life. So he might be justified in cutting him off, but not because of an affair that his dad played no part in. I'll agree in that the dad didn't cause the marriage to end, but I think the OP cutting off his dad was the culmination of 15 years of bad treatment, and this was the final blow. The dad ignored the OP and his sister regarding the stepbrother and encouraged them to continue meeting, likely being where OP's ex met the stepbrother. Dad didn't care about his children as long as he could play happy family. The affair by stepbrother, while not on the dad, was likely able to occur because of his own disregard for his kids and his encouragement to be in contact with his family. Only now, after being fired by his dad, grandfather, and losing his kids, is the dad willing to acknowledge that his actions resulted negatively on the family's life. It took a major blow to the dad's financial and family life to make him show any care towards his kids and their feelings. I think we see this often, with seemingly small events causing people to stop contact with others, but it is the culmination of events that cause this, not the single event itself. I don't know how fair it is, but it definitely isn't due to this issue alone. My thoughts exactly. Only reason he's divorcing his wife is because otherwise he'll lose his family and never get comfy job back. For grandfather and sister, they are not the a-hole. I think the dad is the bigger a-hole than the stepbrother for only wanting to cut contact after basically losing everything. OP, understandable rage. I guess that's one armchair speculation to think on. I don't think we can get any further details for this story, but I would love to know what your opinion is and where you think the backstory lies here. Who really is the a-hole in the situation? What do you think the truth is? I'd love to know down in the comments. Our next post is by user Black Forces Are Cool, titled, "Am I the a-hole for not forgiving my uncle for telling me that I'm a product of an affair?" So I, 19 male, am a product of an affair. I just learned this story around Easter of 2018. My dad had an affair that resulted in him getting his mistress pregnant and having me. My mum relied on him financially and already had 3 kids, including a newborn by him, so she stayed. My dad started a co-parenting relationship and ended the affair with the other woman. When I was around 2, my biological mother ran off. We think to her home country, but we really don't know. I honestly couldn't care less and don't have any desire to find her. After my biological mum left, my mum was willing to take me into her house and raise me as her own son. I'm sure this must have been hard for her, as I've seen a picture of my bio mother, and I'm a dead ringer for her, and even have the masculine version of her name. As I said, I didn't know this, and I only found out because I got into a public fight with my mum at our family's Easter dinner when I was 16. I couldn't tell you what it was about, but I do know the next day I got a call from my mum's brother who let me hear about how ungrateful I was being to the woman who raised me after my real mum abandoned me. Of course, I was confused and went to my parents who told me everything. The news broke me for so long. I felt like a stranger in my house and like a monster to my mum. My older brothers both knew, but my older sister did not, and our entire extended family knew about me. I shouldn't have learned about it this way. This is why I have never forgiven my uncle for telling me in anger. Apparently, he didn't know I didn't know, so almost everyone in our family, except my siblings, think I should forgive him. I saw him again last weekend, and I refused to accept his apology, which led to my cousins and aunt, and my dad, pressuring me to just forgive him. I didn't, and still haven't. Am I the a-hole? I don't buy this story for 1 second. I feel like everyone's covering up his quote-unquote mistake, if you want to call it that, and then expecting you to forgive him and accept his apology. This is a truly groundbreaking thing for you, and I'm surprised they didn't tell you earlier. They let this go on for 16 years. That is their fault, and that is a slip-up by them. I feel like that's wildly inappropriate to let that go on for so long. You have to know eventually, and that's way too late. I would say everyone else in this situation is the problem. You are not to be blamed for this. You are not to be blamed for your reaction, and you should not be forced to apologize. This is something I wouldn't apologize for, nor would I forgive. Not the a-hole. The Mirror's Truth says, not the a-hole. I don't buy this not knowing. It sounds like this adult man was intentionally trying to inflict as much damage as he could on a 16-year-old kid. You're a teenager. Of course you fought with your mum. What teen doesn't? You get over it and you move on. You don't call them to curse them out and lay life-altering news on them out of anger. You were right. This isn't how you should have found out. Even if the uncle truly believed that he knew, unlikely, it is still incredibly damaging to throw that in a kid's face. That's the same as telling an adopted kid that they have to spend every day being grateful that their parents rescued them. His comment was meant to make OP feel less like a real kid and like he owes his parents for parenting. And that's wrong and undermines their family dynamic. The uncle was going for an effect, and it's an irreversible one that he should have had no leverage or right in. I doubt he didn't know that you didn't know either. Seeing as you and your sister didn't know up until now, that's a conscious decision within the family. And he doesn't deserve your forgiveness. Oh, OP's dad and his side ganging up on OP to forgive the uncle? Gee, I wonder why. Who stands to gain from placating this awkward situation? OP, your anger is legitimate, and if you were to ever forgive your family members, it's on your time. More importantly, keep talking with the mother that raised you. You have some healing to do, and she's the person that needs to be part of the process. Slytherin Demigod says, not the a-hole. Even if he didn't know that you didn't know, he still has no good reason to hang that over your head. The uncle is a total asshole. That was not his news to share with OP. The purpose of revealing that information did not come from a place of care, but rather maliciousness. The uncle is transferring his frustration with the father to OP. And Erased Storm says, everyone sucks here. Your parents for not telling you the truth when literally everyone knew, except a sister. Uncle for butting into something not his business, but not unreasonable of him to think that you knew, as it appeared to be public family knowledge. And you, the least, because this sounds tragic, but the blame falls mostly on your parents here, not the uncle. So if you're going to hold a grudge, at least direct it to the right people. But like others said, why throw it in his face? How would he ever feel like he belongs if his family doesn't view him as family and uses that against him? He really should let others know why he isn't going to just forgive his uncle for his lame excuse, and his parents might have been waiting for when it was the best time to tell him. His siblings probably accidentally found out. Really, he just needs his mum's approval because she raised him and needs to let him know that he is still her son. His uncle needs a better apology. So what do you guys think? Is OP projecting their anger to the wrong person in this situation, and does that make them an a-hole for it? Or do you think this is completely justified? I'd love to know your opinions and your hot takes on this situation down in the comments below. Have you guys been in situations similar to this before? And what would you do in a situation like this? Our next post is by user ThrowAwayYJ, titled, Am I the a-hole for accepting my dad's apology gift on behalf of both me and my wife? This year, we had a Zoom Thanksgiving with my family, which consisted of my brother 49 male and his wife 26 female, and my dad 71 male and my stepmom 40 female. My dad has always been protective of me and my brother, and speaks out if he feels either of us are being treated badly by others. My wife, 46, had a hysterectomy 2 years ago because, after giving birth to our fourth child, doctors said she had endometriosis. After her hysterectomy, her personality completely changed. She was no longer as happy-go-lucky as she used to be, would spend hours laying in bed, and would refuse to dress up for social events or buy new clothes, period, because she said she could break out into sweats at any moment and soak her entire outfit. I understand her problems, and I never fault her for anything she says or does. However, my dad has expressed that he was uncomfortable about how snappy my wife has been to me, and that she always looked like she's been dragged to social events that we attend against her will. Underdressed, hair disheveled, dark circles under her eyes. During our Thanksgiving dinner, my brother and his wife of 3 years were talking about a new construction project that he was overseeing and I was consulting on. His wife was extremely excited and pumping him up about how he will employ so many people during a pandemic, and that he never fails to amaze in his results. My dad asked my wife what she thought, and when she gave a non-committal response, they got into an argument. My dad called my wife a wet blanket who didn't support anything that I did, and my wife called him a misogynist who left my mum alone and destitute. My dad said that I could do so much better, and that my wife should be more like my brother's wife, who is always dressed to the nines and is very physically affectionate with him in public, who he said was always put together, happy, and supportive. To which my wife replied that he probably has never tolerated a woman during menopause, but he acts worse than menopausal women. I ended the Zoom after he said that she should at least try harder to keep you. I was very angry. But it's been a while, and my dad has been texting me about how sorry he was and that he was drunk. I thought that my wife had cooled off as well. Yesterday, a package arrived and inside was a sorry note from my dad. He had gifted me a new watch and a coffee machine we wanted to get for our family. I brought the gifts inside and ended up texting him and my stepmom in the family group chat. I simply said thanks for the gifts from our family. My wife was furious that I accepted gifts from my father, and even angrier when I showed her the note. She said she does not accept the apology and that she doesn't want the gifts. I told her I didn't really know what the big deal was because families give each other gifts, and he's still my father, and she herself said that she was going to have to talk to him eventually. So, am I the a-hole? I think so, yeah. I do think you suck for this situation. You chose not to talk to her, and I think you know willingly that this wouldn't have gone down well if you did talk to her and discuss the gifts. I think you wanted to sweep this under the rug and kind of force an apology out of her by saying, look, I already said it. You know, we don't have to take this any further. We don't have to have more conflict. It's better this way. I think you're a coward and spineless for doing this, OP. I think personally you need to listen to your wife, give the gifts back, and explain that there is some, adjustments that need to be made in this relationship with your father. As it stands currently, you're the a-hole, and I feel bad for your wife, I really do. Broad Elderberry says, you're the a-hole. First of all, your wife has had 4 kids with endometriosis. I have endo, and I've already refused to put my body through that because the pain is too much. And it's not worth increasing my risk of cancer just to have biological kids. Did you know that, by the way? That cancer can be a side effect of endometriosis, especially if it's untreated. And then, her endometriosis progressed to the point where she had to have a hysterectomy. That is not only a physically strenuous process, but an emotional one as well. Your wife's body can no longer regulate her hormones correctly. It's just, oh, it's menopause. She's a little bit hot and tired. Unless she's on some serious hormone replacement drugs, she has very little control over her mood or even her own body. And if she is on the drugs, then she has to deal with the side effects. After all of that, and what your wife went through and is going through, your father put her down because she's not as sexy and perky as a 26-year-old. And you said not one word to defend her. You are not owed an apology. You are not the one who was grossly offended. You have no power to accept the apology. Your father's apologies mean fuck all because they weren't given directly towards your wife. Edit to add, the whole endo increases your risk for cancer seems to be scaring people. I'm sorry about that, it's what my obgyn told me, so I assumed that it was commonly known amongst us endo peeps. And also in Australia we say obgyn. It's not a common phrase, but it's much better than saying, my OBGYN told me this and my OBGYN told me that. What a mouthful. Anyway, Sister to the Rain 9 says, why is it a pattern for the men in your family to marry women 20 plus years their junior? Also, you're the a-hole, but the reasons why have been so thoroughly elaborated on that I'm gonna save my fingers. And then for the dad to say, you should be more like the other wife that is 20 years younger than you. That dad is an a-hole and a misogynist. I feel like that about covers it. Do you guys have anything else to add on to this in the comments? Because I personally don't. I feel like all bases have been covered here. I feel like it's a thoroughly you're the a-hole diagnosis. I would love to know your opinions down in the comments though. And our last post is by user throwaway account lol, titled, "Am I the a-hole for telling my brother's girlfriend to F off?" Okay, I'm using a throwaway for personal reasons, and I'm on mobile, so sorry for format. I, female 18, have 5 brothers, Cal, Leo, Ben, Kai, Jay, and I'm the only girl. My mum isn't around, but that's a story for another day. It's just been the 6 of us and my dad since I was about 6. Just to paint a clear enough picture, we all live at home, plus Jay's girlfriend, May. So Kai has been dating his girlfriend, female 21, who I'll call S, for nearly 8 months, and she's hated me since the beginning. When she started coming around, she would always give me dirty looks, make nasty comments about my outfits, etc. 4 months in, she started to sexualize anything I did with my brothers. I would give them a small hug when leaving and say I love you. I didn't see anything wrong with that. She said that it was weird that I was 18 and still hugging my brothers and my dad shouldn't give me a kiss on the forehead because only couples do that. She said it looked dirty, and she didn't feel comfortable with the hugs, so Kai stopped allowing me to hug him, and when I say I love you, he doesn't say it back anymore. At one point, Jay and May had spoken up on my behalf because she was being a complete bitch to me. May said S was the only person who sees anything wrong with how we are, and she was disgusting. No one in our house likes her. Today, S came into my room without knocking and saw that I was lying down in an old shirt of Kai's, as they give me their old shirts sometimes. If the shirt is long enough, I'll sleep in just the shirt, which I was doing, but I always make sure my door is closed. And if it isn't, I wear shorts or stay under my blanket. She got upset, saying that I needed to stop trying to be so close with Kai, that it wasn't normal sibling behavior. I reminded her she walked into my room, not giving me enough time to cover up, plus it was a complete invasion of my privacy, and I didn't see how I was trying to be close when I was only wearing his old shirt. I finally had enough when she said I was an attention seeker, and I dressed provocatively around my brothers and dad to get their attention. She topped it off with, "I don't see how May could live here because of how needy you act." So I told her to fuck off and that there was something mentally wrong with her. Now is where I ask if I am the a-hole because Kai is mad at me, saying that she was having a bad day and I should have taken her feelings into consideration. He was at work when it happened, but May was home alone with Cal, and they heard it all go down. They backed me up, but my brother thinks I should still apologize for being mean and shutting the door in her face. He hasn't talked to me since it happened either. Edit. A lot of people are asking about my dad, and I realize I hadn't said much about him, but he isn't around much, to be honest. He works a lot, so he's only ever present for less than 10% of her BS. And a lot of you also think I should talk to him or have a family meeting. And I'll try to talk to everyone around dinner maybe. A big thank you to everyone who's replied too. Edit 2. Someone mentioned sitting down with Jay's girlfriend, May, and talking to Kai, which I totally like. And if by some dumb reason he still doesn't believe S is in the wrong, I'll just send him the link to this post and call it a day. I guess I didn't really need that edit 2 there, but yeah, I do think a meeting and talking this out between all of you guys is the go here. It may not solve the problem, but at least it'll show that you tried to solve this problem, which is a good step in the right direction, which could mean, someone leaving the household, relationships being broken, or at least just coming to an understanding. To me, it seems obvious that she's the one sexualizing all these situations, and she's the one coming into your room, making a problem. You've really done nothing wrong. It's been a normal family tradition for you to hug your brothers, and to have a kiss on the forehead goodbye. That's fine. Some people may think it's weird, but she's taking it a step further, or an entire fucking football field further, by coming in and saying, "That's gross, I don't agree with this, there's something wrong with your family." That's just so disrespectful and not asked for. It's really not on to do that. So I can't blame you for anything you've done in the story. I'm not judging you for it. I think you've done right to defend yourself. Not the a-hole. Mr. I Fart A Lot Too says, while legally you are all considered adults, your father as the parent and presumed house owner should have nipped this in the bud immediately. If I was your dad, I would have informed both Kai and his girlfriend that she was no longer permitted in my home, period. He would be welcome to move out if he didn't agree with me. Not the a-hole. Agreed. Not once was the father brought up and having done or said anything. Dad should have a talk with Kai and his girlfriend to get to the bottom of the issues the girlfriend has with OP. Completely agree. Where is the dad in all this? This girlfriend is an a-hole because she is sexualizing a teenager in her own family home with her own family, and actively working to break down familiar relationships. She is manipulative, obviously jealous of OP, and possibly trying to remove the brother out of his family unit. Not the a-hole. Just start loudly asking her what her obsession with incest is every time she talks to you, or why she feels the need to sexualize everything you do. OP should say, "Oh my god, why you are so obsessed with me?" every time the girlfriend says anything to her. Not sure that would help, but go off. Not the a-hole. His girlfriend is a jealous freak. Red flags all around. That one is going to be trouble. I totally agree. Not the a-hole. She sounds over the top and abusive, but her brother is too besotted to see it. I think that about covers it today, guys. I'd love to hear your opinions on that one. Do you agree with the judgment, or do you think there is a universe in which OP could be the a-hole in that last story? And are there any other Mariah Carey songs like the "Why You So Obsessed With Me" that you would quote to shut down this BS? I'd love to know any and all thoughts, comments, or anecdotes down to the comments below. And with that said, I do hope you have a good day, night, sleep, whatever you're up to, and I'll see you in the next episode. Bye.